Hello everybody and welcome back to Army Painting Series 21. This is going to be episode 2. It's a color test figure, but we're kind of putting the test in color test because what I want to do is particularly see how close these two are to each other. Now, just as I open up this container, it looked pretty darn similar to this. I've done just a few minor tests with it. What we're going to do is some real honest to goodness testing here. Not just painting the figure, but we're going to try a couple little swatches here. So essentially mixing these with these and just see what we get. I have a feeling what it is I want to get. Now, I'm also, there is nothing in any other paint line like this though. So this might be one critical extra thing that I guess I would say you might want to get if you're going to do something like this. True metallic metals in oils. Now, again, I've done some tests here, especially with the darker colors. When you mix either this or the Gamblin Silver with a darker color like this, it turns this into a metallic and also makes it lighter. The more of this you put in, the lighter this gets, and you're going to see that. I thought it might be useful for you to see these little color chart things right here. We've done them before with some other colors. Now, these two, we'll see if I do them with those, because again, we had to mix just a touch of our metallic paint to make the fluorescence just make a little bit more sense. I don't know what's going to happen though. It could just kind of turn that a weird greenish color. Now this one for sure, we're definitely going to want, I think, in indigo. Obviously we're going to want, I think, Van Dyke brown. Tempted, yeah, now I've actually tried this in the with the interference blue in series 20 for the Ossiarchs. And raw umber is another one. Again, we'll see what happens. I don't want to spend forever just doing this. I mean, we do have a figure after all to paint, but well, we'll see what we can do just with these guys. Now, I'm just again give them a quick little try here. I don't want to spend a ton of time on this here, but I want to see what's going to happen when we just mix a few of these colors with. We'll start off with the Gamblin, I think. We'll start off with the Gamblin. We'll see what we get with that next, and let's get down to it. So let's see what happens with our Gamblin Silver. And once again, the what would you say, the texture of the consistency of the mica flakes was fantastic. I was shocked. I really did not expect it to be quite so nice as that. We're going to start off with some indigo here. And we'll try and do these same colors here. So I'm just going to try and set these where I can actually just kind of get to them here easily. I'm also going to make sure, well, I have some rags here. I think I don't have quite as many as I wish I had, but we'll do what we can with what we got. And we'll start this off in the usual color chart fashion here. Let's pull this over to the side. Right about to here. Let's grab ourselves a neutral brush here of some kind. And let the fun begin. Now I have made a thinned down version of this, obviously for painting. Interesting that it's holding up. Wow, that's holding up a lot more than I expected. Make sure this is reasonably centered for you here. So this silver, we'll be curious to see what happens with the phthalo colors, but this silver really sort of holds its own here, even as it's mixing with that indigo blue. But it's certainly turning into a metallic color here, without a doubt. Definitely creating something metallic here. And of course I just stuck my finger in that. So let me just get some of that off of my fingers here. That is, I can really see as it kind of glints there in the light. Impressive. Okay. Let's try our phthalo here. I want to break it up from, say, the really dark ivory black, ivory brown sort of deal here. Okay, let's get ourselves another brush here to do our green. Now this is obviously even more translucent than the indigo blue. Now you can see the translucency there, the streakiness of it. I know everybody that kind of uses this for the first time that is not familiar with the phthalo green. They kind of learned about that streakiness or that transparency of it kind of firsthand. And away we go. Once again, I'm just going to take some of this and just kind of deposit it in a few other places here because that's an awful lot of it. Wow, the phthalo green is really having an impact, a strong impact straight away, much sooner than the indigo does. A lot sooner. All right, let's get this on its side here and let's really start that mixing. Let's really get this mixing process going here. So this really is what happened when I used the acrylic version of this, the metal medium stuff on the previous Necrons, and we've got a picture of one of those up on the screen, of course. Just wipe this off so that we don't completely lose our phthalo green here. Ooh, that's awful nice. Yeah, it's I mean, who knows? Well, let's say you wanted to almost do, I don't know, dark angels that have sort of a metallic look to their armor, but you're wanting to do that in oils. Maybe this is what you do. Maybe this is an option here. And you can see how it lightens it up. So this is working very much the way the metal medium would in the same situation. It's really doing the same thing. So I'm impressed, and I've kind of gotten used to being disappointed of late. So with some colors, so this is when something really does some wonders. I'm very impressed. Okay, let's do Van Dyke Brown, which Van Dyke Brown. Yeah, I'll do Van Dyke Brown here. It doesn't necessarily mean we'll use all of these colors when it comes to the painting process. That these are the ones I'm thinking most likely about here. Van Dyke Brown. My guess is that this is going to be a bit more like the indigo blue, not quite as punchy, say, as your phthalo green. I'm curious here. I see this and maybe burnt umber as some options for, I don't want to say weathering per se, but aging it a bit is something besides just blue or black as far as some kind of shading, say, on this would go. I'm curious to see just how much does the Van Dyke Brown influence the metallic color here. Can you make a metallic brown? I do believe that is working. Yeah, that is a metallic dark brown right there. So again, a potential interesting thing for aging the metal. Now I'm gonna go with the burnt umber here. part of it is I also want to see a kind of a direct comparison between these two. I'm also looking to get a little separation between, say, like the ivory black, because that's a color that I definitely want to try. All right, umber time. Respect the umber. Respect the umber. Let's get this brush over here. You can see on the palette camera there, I'm just trying to keep the brushes in order because I know I'm going to have to use them for the Mig Ammo stuff too. Woof, wow. That doesn't take, oh my goodness. This was the color that I foresaw more as far as doing something that would be considered aging of the metallics and the burnt. Wow, this is a very nice. This is mixing together quite well here. Impressive, impressive. I'm gonna just steal more of this here because that burnt umber had far more influence. This is the first color chart thing that I've done with the burnt umber, so I really didn't know quite what to expect out of it. So, wow, that is an impressive impact that the umber has on that silver, and it is, I think, for sure making a nice metallic version of umber there. You have a metallic burnt umber. Interesting. Yeah, that could make an interesting sort of a, I don't know, more of a brassy type of color there too. Interesting. Did I want to do black next? Let's throw this out here just to see what happens. And I thought Egyptian violet might be another interesting one. Oh, what the hell? A little more. I could use the Winsor Newton version of this. I'm not. You see these Gamblin colors out there, they just happen to be kind of convenient for me to reach. So if you got Winsor Newton, I'm sure it'll be very, very similar, if not identical. Now we will do this again with other colors, with reds, blues, whatever. That's just going to be saved for other army painting series or individual, or just a whole different. Maybe we do a color chart video mixing silver with as many different colors as we can instead of what the 5x7, we just do one. It's literally just the silver mixed with every other, like with 15 20 other colors or something like that. So there's our black, and let's just see what kind of a dark metal color we're going to get out of this. Okay, let's do it. Let's do this. I'm trying to load up as much of the silver as I can in the brush here, and I'm curious to see how does it interact with the black. So this is more like the indigo and the Van Dyke brown, where the silver sort of overpowers the original color here. So phthalo green, burnt umber. Phthalo green, not a surprise. The umber, a slight surprise, not a huge surprise that it overpowered the silver quite so quickly. But we're just doing our thing here, mixing the silver with the black. Now, different blacks, like ivory black, Mars black, lamp black, those are going to have different results because some are warmer, some are cooler, some are maybe a little less transparent than others. I will eventually try some of those other black colors. That will have to wait because I just don't know how many tubes of oil paints I want sitting around here. So an interesting. It kind of looks like gunmetal, basically. I mean, for lack of any other thought, there, it just sort of looks like gunmetal. So that means you wouldn't necessarily need. Where's the? Yeah, gunmetal. I would prefer to just have the lightest oil brusher and kind of work from there. Okay, so we did that one. I really want to try the Egyptian violet here. This is the Williamsburg one. You've seen me use this an awful lot. Now, of course, I haven't actually used much of this big tube. I've used the small original tube. Now, this is going to have an interesting impact because I think this color's got some punch to it. So I think this is going to be more. In fact, I don't think I would I would bet substantially this has more of the umber slash phthalo green effect on the metallic color than something like the Van Dyke brown, the indigo, the ivory black. And now the moment of truth arrives. What's going to happen? How is this going to work? Oh, yep. Very much going to punch that silver right in the face. Wow. Yep. Very much like what I anticipated. We'll try and draw this across as best as we can without completely getting the. Oh my gosh, that's some intense stuff happening there. Wow. It did not take long for that purple to just eat this silver for lunch. So now you know it doesn't take much of the Egyptian violet to make that silver. I mean, wow, I'm just gonna have to keep stealing more and more of the silver over here. I'm just gonna have to wipe the brush out. That's wild. I mean, it's hard to get the silver to move anywhere over here. I'm just gonna have to keep grabbing more of this silver here. This is at least on the level of, say, the phthalo green as far as the impact that it has on that silver, which is neat. It's not like a bad thing or whatever. It's just kind of interesting to see it play out. And you can see how it's the silver has carried all the way out. Wow, fascinating. Okay, we've somehow got ourselves a whole fistful of silver paint. Not sure how that happened. I'm just going to have to grab a bunch of this here and just, wow, I can't, I can't keep the silver from contaminate or being contaminated by the purple there. That's pretty wild. So, we know the effect that Egyptian violet has, which is really neat. I like it. I don't mind that it has a strong effect on it. So last color here, do I just going to have some fun here with where's my fluorescent here? I'm just gonna throw this Marion Street fluorescent out here. I just want to see what happens. I'll never know unless I try. Okay. That is a bright green. Boy, that's kind of heavy and thick. I haven't really used I've only used my pre-thinned stuff. So that's kind of heavy. And you can see it's hard to move this. It's hard to move this along too. That's the best I can do. All right. Last color here. And I do apologize for this taking longer, but this might actually inform you more about what these things can do. Oh, that's where that paint all came from. This might actually be more informative for you in some ways than just seeing the miniature painted. But I mean, we're still, obviously, we're painting the miniature, but wow. I'm really having an interesting time with these. So here, look, see how it's just kind of making things darker and dingy? This is what I mean about the metals where you want that aluminum, that brighter one, because here the silver is completely overpowering the fluorescent. It is just, it's completely overwhelmed it. Now this didn't happen. Oh yeah, see that is no bueno right there. Yeah, there is no mixing happening. All it does is dirty that up and make it dingy. There is nothing happening here. So I needed to know this in advance. So the fluorescent green, not going to happen, but maybe fluorescent green mixed with phthalo green. So this by itself is completely helpless. The silver just wipes it out, overwhelms it. Let's just try the Mig Ammo stuff here real quick, if you don't mind, and we'll do that next. Let's give the silver a try here. I really I'm good now. You see, this is a little bit bright. This is just a silver, and the aluminum is brighter than this. I might have to throw more of this out here. And now this is kind of for the folks that haven't maybe seen the oil brushers, because I haven't used these at all on stream. So maybe you just have not seen these. There's a whole lot less in these, I can tell you that right now. There's a ton less paint in these. And it's also going to dry a lot faster. And by a lot faster, I mean a ton faster. So I'm going to keep my other color chart available here so I can kind of see what the heck colors I used, starting with the indigo. Okay. Let's have at it. I'm pretty sure that as far as colors overpowering things, I would expect that the umber and the phthalo green are going to overpower this metallic just the same way they did the Gamblin metallic. I don't see that really being any different. And very similar. Now, of course, it's going to be, I think it's going to be a little easier to mix this because the Mig Ammo stuff is thinned down more like, this is more like our miniature paint version. And this is where I got the idea of thinning down the oil paints, is from these oil brushes. So you can see how much easier this flows already. But here, the silver is going a pretty long way. That's going a really long way. Now we'll see what happens when it hits the phthalo green, of course. And will that have the same effect, or will it stand up to the phthalo green just a little bit more, maybe, than the Gamblin Silver did? And as I've mentioned, I may have just mentioned on the stream a lot, the Winsor Newton Silver is just, or any of their metal, is just, it's, you can count the individual flakes of metal in them. It's just, it's unfortunately completely useless, I'm sad to say, especially since I've got a tube of it now that is quite worthless to me. But at least you know not to do that. Okay, hopefully this, okay, that is phthalo green. And I know you guys want to see the miniature be painted, but this to me is every bit as important as seeing that figure being painted, because what I'm seeing here is going to dictate what happens with the miniature. So If you're wondering why so much time with this, look at this. See that stuff seeping out over the sides here of my little silver mounds? That's obviously, whatever thinner was put in here. Well, now that's interesting. I mean, the phthalo green is having an impact on the Mig Ammo Silver. Yeah, okay, it has an impact, that's for sure. I think maybe this stands up a little bit more, offers a little more resistance to the phthalo green than the Gamblin did. Now, is it just the consistency of this? Is this the fact that the Gamblin paint is obviously much thicker? It's not, I didn't use I just should have used my thin version of it, but I wanted to see that out of the two compared to the oil brusher thinness. Wow. Oh my goodness. So one thing I see, and I don't know, I think you can even see it here. Boy, the thinness of this and the ease of blending here. Will my own oil brusher slash whatever thing be quite so easy to do? I might just, I don't know, I might even do a little test off camera myself and show you the results of that. So sorry, I'm just kind of searching around here for clean paper towels because I thought I had brought in a batch with me, and guess I had. Time for some, where's my Van Dyke Brown here? So it's going to be this, then umber. And I think I just need to brush some more of this out here. Van Dyke Brown. What is going to happen with this one? Push this out here. All the way over to our silver. Time to mix. And what starts to happen here? Boy, that silver really does. And this is actually, this is not the aluminum. This is the silver here. Having quite the impact already on our brown. And we'll see what happens when the umber hits this. And there's our nice little chart of what happens with Van Dyke Brown and the Mig Ammo Silver. Okay, next up is Burnt Umber. Where are you? There you are. Curiosity time. Can't wait to see what happens here. Right. Because umbers, I'm sure this burnt umber gets used in so many different weathering, or at least the pigments, the same pigment numbers of this, maybe not specifically, umber, but the pigment numbers, I bet you, if they ever showed that kind of data on the Mig Ammo stuff, I bet you'd see some of the same ones that go into burnt umber. Okay. And the umber's having an effect already. Maybe. I don't know. I think it's having a pretty big impact on that silver. Oh yeah. Wow. That's just a huge effect already on that silver. I mean, it's practically, the silver is just gone. I'm gonna have to brush some more out here. Just to get it to go to the halfway point. That's all I want to have is just this to the halfway point, and that's tough. Because the umber just wants to overpower it. It is completely overpowering it. Of course, the umber being more of that translucent type of color. Maybe, well, that's, I'm sure the Egyptian violet's going to do the same thing as always. Wow, that's really fascinating, the impact this has. Okay, so there's your umber now. I think Egyptian violet. Nope, ivory black is next, then Egyptian violet. I think this is ivory black here. And we're also just gonna have to put some more of this silver out here too, because the paper is really, well, the illustration board's really absorbing the heck out of that. Okay, ivory black. And I know these just all kind of look dark, especially from this angle. That's kind of how they look to me too. Visually, what I see is not very different from what you see. And now for our silver into our black. Let's see what kind of gunmetal do we have here when we do this. I'm just assuming that that center line, that's what we're going to have, is essentially gunmetal. Man, the silver really does punch it. Yep. I don't think it's going to be the same case with the Egyptian violet, but so we have some similar behaviors here, one to the other. Definitely starting to turn into a gunmetal type color, and it's a very neutral. I guess that's why I just kind of use the ivory black. It doesn't, lamp black I think is much more of a warm black. And I think I'm just trying to, if I'm going to use something that's warmer like that, well, I'd rather just have it be umber or Van Dyke brown or something like that instead of just a black. Okay. Now, Egyptian violet. Egyptian violet is here. Egyptian violet brush. We mix. And you can see just how this flows in comparison to, say, things like the Van Dyke brown. You can tell this smells really flows very smoothly, but it's not so streaky like, say, the phthalo green is. I think I'm gonna get a little bit more of a silver out here. We know, I believe we can predict what's going to happen to this. that the purple is going to have an immediate and stark impact on this. Oh yeah, that's for sure. I'm just looking over at my other. Oh my goodness. Wow. All right. I think we'll have to grab some more silver and put this in there if we want to have any kind of a mix. So we'll just throw more out here. Then let's see if a whole new round of silver here can keep this entire thing from just turning purple. Because I'd like you to see some kind of mixing happen in here instead of just a little dot of silver and then a whole line of just Egyptian violet. But wow, that has just one heck of an impact. I mean, it is a really neat, that's a really nice metallic purple color there. No doubt about it. I think phthalo blue would be very much the same way. So yeah, that's got some punch to it. And now we'll throw the fluorescent green out there to see if there's any actual difference in any way, shape, or form. I think it will just do exactly the same thing. So here is our fluorescent. Let's throw more of our silver out here too. Although, based on what the other one was, it didn't really need much to nuke that silver or nuke the fluorescent green last time. But, well, let's find out. Boy, that's hard to move. That is hard to move that all the way down here. My guess is it's just going to turn that weird sort of dark color and just not do very much. And that's pretty much what it's doing. I'm thinking it's turning a little bit darker a little bit sooner just because this being thinner. Oh, yeah, it just. So we know that oh, yikes, that is awful. That is awful and useless. This, you could almost do this with the metal medium with the acrylic and not have this happen, but with the oils, you cannot do this. That is junk. So with the oils, that particular trick does not work at all. So we have to keep that in mind. I'm thinking maybe we just mix it with something else, like a phthalo green to, oof, okay. Well, I know that was quite the side track thing there. I know it took a lot of time away from just painting the miniature, so to speak, but I think this might even illustrate the point more than painting the miniature itself. So I will try to get some decent pictures of these. Again, it's kind of glinty. It's metallic. It's silver. It's hard to photograph. I'll do the best that I can here. But okay, so at least you have the opinions about it. Now next up, we're gonna start painting that figure. We're gonna hit it with the pre-glaze and all of the usual steps, and we'll be right back with that. It's time to get into our painting here, but I did want to talk about the primer. This is, oh yeah, it's copper right here. This is another one. I think there's maybe three at least, basically specifically metal primers by Steinerres. And you can see it's kind of silvery copper. but this is the first time I've ever primed something in metallic. I thought it could be interesting. I have no idea. Are we going to like it? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Also, not quite. I don't think I'm going to do the fluorescent glow here on the floor. Remember, we were thinking about having these conduits be glowing here instead of this generating the glow. Do we have the glow generated by these small inserts, or is it going to be this outer casing that's more of a glow? We have to, or is just the whole thing going to glow, and maybe that's just a darker green in there, or the other way around. We have to figure that out too. Also, kind of looks like missing an eye here, so some kind of crazy battle damage type thing, and we'll work around here. Now, pre-glaze is going to be just a bit different here. Now let me see if I can get just a couple of sponges out as well here, and they are just the same old makeup sponges. Another reason why I thought I would prime this with the metals is if I do a glaze with just the regular oils, then we should still at least have some kind of metallic effect left behind. However, what if we were to mix that in straight away? Now, this, I'm just going to do a little bit of mixing right here for you. So this is not the Mig Ammo oil brusher. This is my silver, my thin down silver. Oh, wow, that's nice and silky. So the blockiness that you see here, well, obviously that's just the thickness because it's out of the tube. What I'm getting now is much more like that level of smoothness, just because, well, guess what? We turn this into an oil brusher for all intents and purposes. Now, what I'd like it to be a little darker than this, so here's a touch more of the, there we go. I just want to see what'll happen here. I have no idea. See, it retains that metallic look to it. Even though it's dark, it retains the metallic look. Oh, yeah. So, and just to kind of emphasize this here, you could, in theory, keep this as simple as mixing these darker colors with your metallics like this, or with your metal, and wipe it away. And with this primer, you could be done. So think of it that way. So instead of just glazing some whatever over a metallic primer with acrylics, think of it like this. So now we're going to take our indigo here. You know what? I'm just going to apply this directly here. Ooh, nice. Wow. Ha ha ha. Wow. This is really fascinating here. It's retaining that metallic look to it, even though it's very thin down and everything else. It maintains some of that. Look at that, but you can still see the bluishness to it. I'll be curious to see what happens. I'll wipe it away just to see what happens. But there's part of me that really just loves what's going on here, and yeah. So this is potentially another way for you to think about painting the Necrons. This is kind of why I wasn't really so bent on showing or I was kind of more thinking I'd rather show you more of the mixing so you could see that, because here on the figure, well, it might be a little bit harder to see that mixing pure and simple, but the impact this has is just, that's amazing. Now, we have to think about some phthalo green. If we're going to have this be glowing at all, like, this is glowing, that's glowing, how's about we take some phthalo green now, and we do a similar thing with our phthalo green. Just a drop of our thinner here, and interesting. That's an interesting difference that's going on there. So yeah, wow. Look at that. Look at that metallic green color. I'm really pleasantly surprised at how that stands up to it. Yeah, I mean that's really thinned out. I wasn't sure what was going to happen. Would it break down once I really hit it with the thinner? Was it just going to break down? What was actually going to happen? This has more punch to it than the acrylic version. Wow. I would say that I am impressed already with what this does. So this whole unit thing here, it's just going to be one big grand experiment. I didn't try it. This is literally the first time I've tried this. I have not tried this before. I wanted you to see it straight away. No filter, just poof. That's a little indigo blue. I don't even have the ivory black out here. I'm having so much fun with this already. Now, I'm kind of forgetting that I wanted to see what would happen when I just removed this the old-fashioned way, but I'm just kind of so intrigued by what's just happening here and this ability to mix all this, because I did not have this with the acrylics. Didn't have that. But before I start wiping anything away here, I want to let that sit. It's just another part of the experiment also. Boy, what are we going to do on this stuff here? I will take a little bit of green here with my umber. Just kind of hit that floor. I'm going to take a little bit of my Egyptian violet here. Hit this down. And again, I want those. I think I want to have some kind of lightness to those. I just don't want to maybe casting their own light necessarily. Something else you have to consider, and this is anytime you're working with metallics, is do you have a separate, well, if this was acrylics, would it be a separate water container where maybe you've got, so you don't want your metallics or that the metal flakes kind of getting into the part where you don't want metallics, but we sort of want, well, as much of this to have that metallic look to it as possible. So there's our Egyptian violet, some of our blue here. I am really intrigued by this. Totally fascinated. I'm already seeing here that it's easier to make this, it's almost easier to make it darker. And I don't mean by additional glazes, I mean just, I hope you can see this. I'm going to try and, that's why I'm kind of focusing here on the end of the Gauss weapon. I'm just going to assume they still call them Gauss weapons. Oh, and by the way, that thin down Gamblin, it's like a carbon copy of the consistency of the Mig Ammo stuff. Of course, the difference is that's the only, there is no aluminum or lighter silver color. You're stuck with that. That's all you got. But I'm able to see, I'm kind of like maybe we don't with this, we might not be doing the pre-glaze and wipe away. I'm sort of enjoying this ability to darken. I don't know. I don't even know if I have to wipe this away. I don't think I do. Now, remember, this initial A was also it was pretty darn thin. Wow, look what's happening here. I don't know if I need to. I also don't quite know how fast that silver would dry necessarily. Yeah, but see how it's got that nice kind of aged brown there. Remember, we did that on our other Necrons. We didn't want them to just be bluish silver. right? We wanted to have more depth to it than that. And I think we have established that. Now, you know what? I'm just going to cut a tiny piece of sponge out here. And I'll just remove one of the shoulder pads or something. See what happens. We will never know if we don't try this. But I like that so much. That's kind of neat. Oh. Not so much coming off here. At least not as much as I thought. I mean, you've seen. Well, I mean, he is kind of small, I suppose. No, it is about the same rate. But look at, wow, you know what? I think you can actually see the metallic on camera. I don't know if you could do that with the acrylics. And that's hilarious because, well, the oils should essentially be more glossy and therefore make it harder to see such things. However, now, of course, I think the metallic primer did. There was definitely something good about. Well, I don't know, good, but that was something I think I'm gonna try in the future. Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, if if you're looking for the shortcut way to really do some interesting things with the Necron on a mass level, because you're gonna need a lot of these guys. They're practically the goblins of 40K. If you're just doing a bunch of these warriors here, that could be something to think about. I kid you not. So, you know, I'm gonna just try a few more darks in here. Just gonna grab me some other brushes, looking for some of my. There we go. There's my 0. I'm gonna try and go a little darker here. And I have to. I love the silky texture of that. Oh, umber. Yeah, silky texture of that thin down Gamblin Silver. Very nice. I just want to see what impact the umber has here. I'm just testing it against that's where the indigo blue is, and it does actually cover that. I think you can see what's happening here. We got kind of a lighter thing, then darker blue, and then all of a sudden we get that sort of warmer umber there. Just wanted to see what might happen. Look at that. It may not stay like that at all. I just wanted to see what would happen. Now I am going to try Egyptian violet. We're going to mix that with our phthalo green here just to get a very dark gray, because purple and green make gray. We're also going to make sure we have a little bit of our, oh, what is that? The Van Dyke brown. Trying to darken this up here. Maybe even a couple of these areas darker, because I don't know how much lighter the silver is going to go. That is the question now. It was real easy to establish all these darks. What's going to happen when it comes to the anything lighter? Is it gonna work, or am I just gonna go, well, I guess I just need to keep going darker? Also, object source lighting. That's probably the, wow. Yeah, I think we'll just see what we can do here with our object source lighting next. Yeah. But I'm gonna try and establish as much dark as I can first, like say right along here. Now I'm gonna grab, there it is. That's my phthalo green, but minimal amounts of paint. It's the same thing here as it always is. Okay, that's about as dark as it looks like I can go. Well, maybe I just need to thin it down here. Ah, no, I can't get it dark. Wow, okay, yes, I can get that darker. Darker this is, the more that is going to show up. It'll be interesting to see as far as our blending goes. Does it work the same, that after the fact blending, as it say might with our regular oils? I'm going to once again also get darker here. Same here. Now as it gets darker, obviously it gets a little less metallic with each permutation of that. And I'm thinking I might also want maybe more of the object source lighting on the base. What I'm going to do here, I believe, is see what I can do to get that just to be some sort of light. I'm going to take nah, let's use the green here. And I'm going to also need to thin this down because I'm thinking it, if I can do a panel line wash with it, it'll just sort of sink down in those crevices all by itself. At least that's the plan anyway. And it seems to, yep, seems to do that, at least especially here where the channel is quite wide. Even though we've got all that darker bluish, purple, violet. All right, I'll just get that to fill up some of these here, crevices. Actually, I don't know if I necessarily need that to be glue. I think this will still be somewhat of an object source light, but yeah, let's just get these almost looks like circuit boards. That really does. And we're getting some decent little pin line here. Okay. Oh, what the heck? I'm just gonna throw a little bit of my cadmium yellow in there. That's my, well, faux cadmium yellow. I want this to have a little bit of punch to it. And speaking of punch, I mean, really? Now we're gonna go, I think, darker around the outside of this. But even what we're doing right now, I mean, think of just how few minutes this is. If with it, maybe throw a few highlights on it or something like that, but that this could potentially just get you, that gets you a decent enough result that you can live with in that short of a time frame with the oils, and maybe that's all you do is just you do this, you do a little bit of highlights, and oh, you say, okay, that's enough. These are just a bunch of warriors. That's all it is. Or you do more. It's always completely up to you. I don't even know if you'd have to try the fluorescent green either. You might just be satisfied with something that say the phthalo green cadmium yellow mix might do for you. Now this is, yeah, it gets polluted pretty fast. And remember, this is oils, so I'm just going to indicate a touch of this here and over here. Some of these, some of the metal over here. Onto his foot. And now I'm going to use just something a little bit bigger. I'll just use this crazy sort of filbert type brush here. And we'll just maybe the slightest indication of something that is our source lighting down here. You can see how it's really picking up that darker color there that we put on the base. There we go. Yeah, we're just the cadmium. Fortunately, the cadmium yellow does give us a little bit of opacity to this. Now I'm gonna doing this thing with a bit of a glow so that at least we can throw some of that in a few places here, like on his leg over here. You can see that I'm almost kind of stippling that on just so that it stays there. Yeah, this is I'm enjoying this a lot. I have to admit, this is very fun. Is it going to look dramatically different? Is it going to look really any different than if you had done this with the acrylic TMM? I don't know. I think if it just sort of looks the same, that's almost that's kind of successful if it does. And to me, that's sort of a sign of success if it actually does look so. And people couldn't tell that perhaps you had utilized oils. I think we're getting some decent. And remember, we can still do all of our fun blending stuff too. Okay, now we got a little bit of phthalo green into this, and we'll just do something like this right here. Oh, much more to go yet, but that's not a bad start. And I mean, maybe this is it. Maybe this is all that you are looking for. That was a whole 24 minutes. So less than half an hour just to get to this right here, and a lot of people will be pretty happy with that, but we're going to do much more, and we're going to get to that next. I'm going to try for a couple of lighter colors here because this is sort of the next big test. I think yeah, we're going to start out here just with the straightaway silver because, well, I don't necessarily have to layer up, right? Not layering up. Well, that's substantially brighter. If this were the acrylics, I'd have to just kind of mix a little bit of the silver in and kind of go one layer. But here, I can just really take the silver and mix it in with what I've got here now. And it's okay. That little bit of umber that's there is still mixing with it. Now, we can't, I found out that if you mix white with this, you're not going to get anything lighter. It's just going to be chalky and nasty. What I'm trying to do here, and this is where the TMM part of it comes in. We're not just trying to make this metallic. You see how we've got this sort of a line right here? And now we're going to maybe take some of our indigo. And do sort of another line next to it. And look at that, we're going to darken this up here. So this is where the non-metallic metal part of this comes in. Because yeah, it's if you're just gonna make it all just okay, a little bit lighter metal here, a little bit darker over there, you might as well just do it all with metallic acrylics and not bother to do what we're doing here. Now, how much darker is this going to be? Ah, so even that's the Van Dyke brown there, so I could still make that darker. I know we're talking about adding lighter colors here, but sometimes you just gotta work both ways. But that thin down Gamblin, it really does. That is a very nice silky thing to work with here. Look at this. So what I'm also seeing here with these new Necrons is that they gave them quite the battle damaged look here instead of them all being very pristine. That's just something else that I'm going to have to get used to here because, well, I've only ever painted those other Necrons. But look at that. That nice little line there. What we're going to do now is we're going to take our indigo blue, just like we would normally do if this was non-metallic metals, right? You see how we've enhanced that? Same thing on these guys. There's definitely a much more definition in some of these shapes. Wow. As I look at this, the indigo, for all intents and purposes, it really is acting like a blue liner, Reaper blue liner. Yeah. So this is doing some really interesting things for me here. I get really intrigued by it. Had no idea what to expect. More cylinders here, but this is as light as I can go. I mean, this is essentially white here. This is as light as this is going to get. Can't get any lighter than that, which is, I guess that's fortunate that we are able to we're able to darken this stuff so effectively, say with the umbers and everything else. Yeah, look what's happening here. This is tremendously easier than it was, because I remember it was a while ago, but I remember that other Necron series. Look at this. So light, dark, light. This is the kind of stuff that's really hard to do just with metallic paints because there's just not enough colors in it. You just don't have enough colors in that. Now, of course, I know Turbo Dork has a bunch, Green Stuff World has a bunch, but here it's easier because I don't have to try and mix all those. Here it's just the miniature is still the palette, even though this is true metallic metals. The miniature, still the palette, and not the other way around. So very intrigued by this. Yeah, I hope that you guys find this as interesting as I do. And it can be applied to other things, not just the Necron. There's certainly other things. that I will try and do with the metallics just to expand on what we're going to learn here in this particular series. Again, I do like the idea of the almost a bit of a coppery or brownish look here, and that is pretty much entirely provided by the burnt umber. But here is another case where that is just kind of blending on its own, and I don't have to be mixing up a whole bunch of other lighter colors. This is I kind of took a chance that the mixing of paints was going to take a significant chunk of the painting time, but I also figured that the effectiveness of the oils and that blending ability would take away, well, a bunch of the painting time that we would need otherwise. And that seems to really be proving itself quite right here. I'm going to get to my, yeah, I'm going to take, I'm going to let a little bit of phthalo green get into that indigo blue. Where's my silver here? So while it may not seem like it, what I'm putting in here, actually it does have some metallic nature to it. It may not look like a whole bunch, but there is actually metallic paint in there. Now it's kind of, everything is infused now with the acrylic paint, or the acrylic, with the that metallic, because it's in the brush now. It's getting into kind of everything, so I don't know. I guess those are dents, I suppose. So even here on his foot, I think you can see what's happening here. We're just sort of darkening on the other side of where the object source lighting was. Super thrilled about the ability to be able to just blend stuff here. All right, this is slightly, that's lighter. It has a little bit of the brown in it too. I need to get just some lighter stuff going onto the inside here, and some reflected. Starting to think about things like reflected light, all that. And while I'm in this state right here, I'm looking for my aluminum. Where is that? That's steel, aluminum. Is this going to be any lighter? First, I'm just going to set it down next to my... Wow, okay, that is not significantly lighter. I don't even know if it is at all. That might not be the least bit different. I'm going to put it in an area here where I know I've just got basically the silver from Gamblin. No, it's not really any lighter. We just learned something else. So the two are pretty much identical as far as how light they are. Now that maybe there is some difference in how they handle. It's very possible. Well, this is going to dry faster. There's no doubt about that. This will certainly dry faster. If that's important, well then the Mig Ammo, I think, could serve you well. If it doesn't matter, or if you just don't really want it to dry that fast, well, okay. So yet another thing learned. They're sort of kind of interchangeable, and I'm happy to learn that. I'm very happy to learn that. And again, this has some silver in it. It really does. But now, ooh, that is very much of an umber, kind of a staining type thing. This is very similar to the kind of same sort of glaze that I would do if this were not just a kind of a regular nothing with metallics, right? See, you can see that brownishness. It goes into the blue there. Now here it's sort of the opposite, where the blue is going into something that's a little bit more brownish there. I'm gonna go another step, perhaps darker here again. That is our Egyptian violet. No, sorry, indigo mixed with the Van Dyke brown. And I almost don't mind if this gets to be a little bit less metallic right here. I'm just looking for it to be darker. In fact, I'm even going to almost, I don't want to say do a pin line wash there, but I just want that to be darker before it gets lighter. The darker this is, the lighter whatever glow in here is going to be. Now, phthalo, touch for yellow here. Oh, what the heck, I'm going to little bit of our fluorescent green in there as well. Just trying to hit the underside of this and some greenish glow here. And we'll have to sort of go in, and if we want that to be very, very light, we'll have to do that. Like I said, with our lighter colors. And we have kind of been saving some of our ammunition here, because we have not used anything like this yet. I'm going to just, you can see there's not many colors out on the palette, right? It is, I don't want to say limited palette exercise, but yeah, we've got that's one of our Dick Blick brushes here. And for now, I'm just going to let it wipe out the little dots in the interior. We can go back at another stage here and recover those. It'll just be easier to hit those now. Yeah, I'm going to see if I can't thin this down a little more. There we go. Because remember, even when this is thinned down, it's still going to have a healthy impact. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Let's get this to cast maybe a touch of some light on some of these areas here. See what's going to happen down in here. Now, this is the one crazy thing about this brush. See how those bristles were kind of splaying out there? That is the one thing. And these are those Dick Blick brushes, and that is something that has just kind of bugged me about them, is that they have a tendency to do that. I like the longer bristles as opposed to the shorter spotter type brushes, but man, see that one bristle just sitting out there? That is annoying as all heck, and I'd rather not see that from a brush that is more on the costly side like this one. So I think we've been able to establish some of those lights. What's going to happen here? I could give him the reddish glow on his face too, but whatever. We'll just kind of stick with this here. Okay. This is going to be the next test here is, yeah, see how that just turns that dingy? You cannot get the metallic paint into there. It'll just make it all dingy looking. As long as it's something you're aware of. I kind of need to have more of my green in here. And I think I also need to go thinner here as well. I mean, metallics or not, thin over thin or thin over thick and vice versa still applies. It's still a thing. And I'm just trying to get some extra glintiness here on the metal as opposed to maybe the floor itself. Oh, what the heck? We'll just get a little bit of this on his chin maybe. Yep, all I did was just take my finger and kind of wipe those away. Now I'm gonna see if I can't steal a little bit of lighter opacity here. Get a little bit more of some kind of a glow thing going on here. We might also go back into with some of our darks in the sort of the final stage, I suppose. See all the nifty little lines that we can do here. That's what sort of gives it that, well, I don't want to say that metal appearance because it is, well, we are using actual metal paints here. And I realize this is very much that sort of classic Necron color scheme. I know it's not something very different. However, I was trying to get as close as I could to the old Necron stuff because I thought the comparison would be really fascinating. So I hope you don't mind that there's not a big difference between these and the other ones. The miniatures themselves are different enough. Okay, we've got now just a touch of lighting on his foot. Boy, they really ding the heck out of these guys. I gotta say, there's an awful lot of battle damage here. Way more than I was expecting. Alright, where is my... Let's see if this is the right one here. Looking for my quadruple zero round. Now, I'll just show you what happens when you mix the... I mean, it looks lighter, but because you're losing so much of the metal in this, yeah, see, that's barely metallic paint. And it's weird. You wouldn't think, you're mixing all these other colors in there, but when you mix a lighter color with the metallic, it just starts kind of getting dingy, and it doesn't really actually lighten it up at all. And I've just sort of noticed that about the metallics. Okay. And some of these areas we will just go back in with some of those darker glazes here. Let's get some reflected light in a couple areas here because again, if it's metal, it sure as heck needs to reflect some things. You see that actual striation? That's putting the non-metallic into metallic. That's what's going to do that for you. The different colors here, again, see, we're basically, for all intents and purposes, we're reflecting his arm onto his torso here. And that's the sort of stuff you've got to be willing to do in order to have that kind of contrast. Now we're taking some of our indigo here. Making that a little darker. Now we're going to go with some of our umber. Just enough of that metal to make it have that sort of metallic look to it. Now here, I'm going to grab a brush like this that we use for blending. Now this is going to be interesting here as we take this. What happens when we try and feather this out? So it's, see, it's very different here. That's really different when we try and feather out this glowing color here. We've got to be way more careful than usual because, in effect, what's happening is as you try and blend it with the more metallic stuff, it gets kind of dingy. Just like what happened on the palette over there is what happens. Well, anything that has that fluorescent paint in it, it's going to basically do that. Just something to keep in mind. Sweep this right over the top here. So as you blend in, it's something you've got to keep in mind here. Now, this is another thing I was thinking about doing here is we didn't really do this with the other. We tried, I think, because now I've got stuff like the phthalo green. I'm also going to change some of the temperatures here of the green. So see, it's got more of a yellow there. Here, it's got more of that bluishness to it because of, well, phthalo green has that bluishness to it. So I think we'll do one more section on this here. Again, I don't want this to be super long process, but I think you can see what it is that we're trying to do here. We're trying to get all these different extra, trying to get some extra colors into here. Some of the extra, I'm gonna have to get some of that metallic stuff in here. But this is very much like what we do with our metallic. So, a lighter thing, a darker thing, alternating that light and that dark over and over again. Switching up these colors here, very much like what you would do if you were just doing the regular metallic stuff, or the regular non-metallic. Same exact approach. Now here I'm going to take, see that I can already tell that has lost some of the metallic nature of it, so I had to bring in some metallic paint in. I think that brought it back. Okay, so we'll do one more round of stuff here, maybe darken some things up, and just obviously find more little areas of light, sort of like what we just did right here. And at a certain point, it just becomes how much more detail do you want? How much more resolution are you looking for? And we'll do that next. So I'm going to see what more things we can do on here. Adding lights, adding darks. I'm going to try, see what happens when we add, this is just a phthalo green. mixed with our, well, I'm just going to start calling it metal medium. And it's a fabulous metallic green. I think you'll really like it. I think you might want to give that a shot. You will love it. See, we got a couple of different temperatures now of green here. So it's gonna be metallic, but people are they're gonna look at it and they're gonna say, well, wait a minute, you did non-metallic stuff over here, because they'll see all those kind of so-called telltale trademarks, whatever, of the non-metallic paints, but it will still be, that's your TMM right there. I know some of you that are already familiar with it say, yeah, well, of course, but it's sort of more for the folks that maybe aren't so familiar with it. Yeah, look at all the fun different greenish colors we're getting here, and it is starting to, and it can be blended too. That's the nifty thing. Really enjoying that. Wow, there's a nice green back here. And we're going to do that under here too, because, well, that's why I wanted that floor to have just that hint of the color it has, that maybe a little bit of the metallic green on there, or just something greenish. Wow, look at what that does. That is just not something that happens with your traditional metallic paint. That you just don't see that. You see plenty of shading, of course, that's for sure, but you don't get that color variety like that. That extra bit of lighting that happens, like what you're seeing here. All this reflected stuff here, you just don't really get that. Now, let's say I had him on let's if I made the floor red or whatever, well, then we would be reflecting red all over him. And that would probably look really nifty too, I think. In fact, I'm pretty sure it would look very nifty. Just getting some of this darker green here reflected in a few places. And I might just see what happens. I might even take I haven't even used white yet. This is the first time I've even used anything that could be considered white, I suppose. Now, do I like that better here as opposed to all the dark stuff? I just want to try this here. Eh, nah, like the darker instead. And I'm doing this now because I haven't actually really painted anything darker over the top of it. So that's why, if you're wondering why I did that, I was going to be painting something over the top of it anyway. So what the heck? Figured, why not? Give it a shot, see if we like it. If we don't, something's going to be painted over that anyways. Yeah, we'll just lighten that up as much as we can. Same here. Maybe even the same in here. Now this is much thicker too. I don't have much in the way of thinner with this. Because we've gone so thin in the early layers that we want to have that be, have it sticking, and we're not really going to stick if we're just trying to throw thin on top of thin. Not going to work so well. Now I've got to make sure we don't lose track of our, here, I'm going to see what happens with cerulean blue in our metal here. And see, that's not, I mean, it looks okay on camera, but it's not quite what I was hoping for, just as far as just the miniature in general goes here. It's almost, I feel like I just added white to it. And why is that? Cerulean blue is a much more opaque color than, let's say, anything like your indigo, your burnt umber. So we've lost a little bit of the translucency there. So that is why we're getting that. Yeah, it just sort of looks like a bluish gray. I mean, it does have some metallicness to it, just nowhere near what I was kind of hoping for, I suppose. Yeah, and I know we haven't used any of the Mig Ammo Silver out here. Just to kind of keep things from getting too confusing, I'm just going to stick with the the Gamblin Silver, since the aluminum is not any lighter than this. There's just kind of no point in throwing two different silvers that are going to do the exact same thing, it seems like, for the most part here. Yeah, this is as light as I'm going to be able to get with it. And I was thinking about doing some sort of a freehand type of a thing on their shoulder pads here, but maybe we just don't do that on this series here, just to kind of focus more on learning what these things can do as far as all the different reflections and such. But yeah, I really enjoy that green that happened there. But see, instead of having to mix a lighter green, all I got to do now is just take some of my silver and let it mix with that. And now we've got some shading in that. And as always, and that's something I've noticed with them anytime you're working with the metallic paints, is it's a lot easier to make it darker than it is lighter, which is why I like the idea of adding the metal medium, well, let's just call it metal medium, to those darker colors, because you have the effect of metal, but yet you get that nice rich dark, and you don't have to keep fighting about, well, how can I make my metals lighter? Well, you just make them darker. When in doubt, make things darker. That's what we always talk about. Back to the umber over here. And yeah, I always have to grab at least a small amount, some kind of little touch of the of my medium. Yeah, I see. I'm already. It's metal medium in my head now. I think you can see the difference color-wise, or I think you can see the. I don't want to call it reddishness of that, but versus what we've been doing with some of those blues here. Let's do some vertical lines there. Now, I also want some. See, I can still boost the darks down in here. I can still boost the dark over here too. Constantly keeping in mind horizon lines, reflected light, everything that we normally do with non-metallic metal. All the same stuff. I mean, it is the same. The principles are the same. They don't change. Going to see what kind of really light reflections we can get over here. Ah, there we are. And it's sticking. I was not quite sure what was going to happen with the paint as far as adhesion goes. Once it had the metallics in there, but it seems to be very much the same as any other time we'd be using the metallics or any other oil. I'm going to just get a bit darker here. We'll take a much more of the what the heck? We'll even throw a little bit of Egyptian violet more Egyptian violet in here. We'll just make that darker. We'll go back into these guys here. Remembering to get some fresh paint too. Okay. And we'll do the same on the other side. And by making these darker, it makes the lighting be that much brighter. And I know we've seen this type of color scheme here many, many, many times, but I have other Necrons around from the Indomitus box, so maybe we do something that is much more of like we do red Necrons or something like that, or something more rusted. There's other Necrons. I didn't want to use them all on this series here, so I was trying to actually keep some of them so that maybe not another series, but we do like a one-off or something like that. We'll just take one or two. We'll just kind of do warriors in different colors. All right, we certainly need a bit of a horizon line there. So I can see we're kind of going back and forth here, a few darks here and there. But all the while, that's got metal, for all intents and purposes, it's got metal medium mixed in with it. Where's my dark green again? And just on these ones that are potentially pointed towards your ground level here. Now maybe we'll take this. I'm trying to get thinner here. And maybe we just get some of these areas a little bit lighter. But also has a kind of a different color greenishness to it. Where's my little diode lines there? I wish that I could have maybe painted the base first, but since I think we're just going to keep that relatively simple. Not really going to get too involved with that. Where's my... Oh, what the heck, I'll just use this one. I will take some of that Egyptian violet, again, mixing it with phthalo green here. And then I'll just go over the top, which should, yes, see how it cleans that up. You don't see, oh, sorry, you don't see all those nasty lines anymore, or the overflow, I guess you would call it. Same thing's going to happen here. We get rid of the overflow. I'm also going to take my Egyptian violet here, and we're going to mix it with our metal color. Since we have just a hint of purple on the floor, how's about we put a little couple touches of purple on this, and that's yet another color that we're able to add to this to, like I said, make it just look more interesting. People are not going to look at that and go, why, well, you have purple over here. They'll just say, wow, look at all those really cool metal colors that you got going on. This is very much the same thing that we did with our other Necrons. If you remember, there's a lot of purple in them. Ah, look at what just happened right there. Look at that. How now the difference is, so I can take this brush here and see we got a couple of different metal colors here. It's all metallic here, so this is going to blend easy. Nice and easy there. No problem. Now I'm going to do the same over here too. And if you remember in the old, well, not the old, but the previous Necron series, there was an awful lot of that purple. It made a really nice sort of secondary color like that, where we wanted to get things not just lighter, but we wanted to have some actual color in the way that we would normally do with something like non-metallic metals. A little touch more over here. So yeah, we've been able to do some really fun things. How's about we got that green on that side. What happens if we use this purple on the other side? I'm going to get, if I can, this into here. And on the other side over here. And then we'll go restore some of the darks around this. Where's my nice dark greenish metal here? And that's got to be pretty darn dry, because otherwise that is not going to stick. But you see there's no problem sticking there because I made it nice and dry. It's also pretty dark. Pretty much the same idea as what we just did on the floor. What I'm going to see here, now this will be another little, I'm just testing something here with the phthalo green that's got some of the white in it. Is this still going to look, yeah, see, even that loses a bit of the metal effect by doing that. Maybe it could keep it just because of the intensity of the phthalo green, but it seems to lose a little touch of that. So good to know. I'm experimenting with things here. It just, none of this stuff is for any kind of a contest or whatever. It's just for us to learn. That's what all we're trying to do here is just learn, maximize the learning out of this. I mean, even if I absolutely hated what I was getting out of this here, it would still be, there would still be something being learned. And that really is the important thing all the time, is just trying to find out new things. because sometimes the new thing you find out maybe is not really what you wanted to know because something doesn't really work. So we want to take a little bit of our green and sort of wind a little bit of that into there. Yeah, it's nice to be able to go back into these areas and either blend into them or just take what's there and blend it out a touch. There it is. Here, let's get a little bit of my phthalo green here. I'm just gonna also want to make sure I've got some kind of cadmium yellow into that. And I'm just trying to sort of secure the last of my object source lighting here too. Sometimes gonna use the stipple effect as well. Oh yeah, over here. There's an awful lot of battle damage on these things, that's for sure. Much more than I was expecting. I didn't know there was any. Now here, I'm just going to try and take advantage of the oils where I can just sort of do the wet blending kind of stuff. Oh, again, wow, that's going to be a little bit too on the runny side, so I'm going to get, yeah. This a touch lighter, perhaps. And then I'll have to see just how much of this lighting is there conduit and such gonna take on here. So I think I just kind of the edge of that there. Maybe the edge of our floor gets a bit of it. And I will be curious to see, does the metallic oil paint have a faster drying time just on the basis of what it is? Well, we will find out for sure. I'm gonna get just a touch of the metal in there. Just looking to darken this down. It basically makes my light look lighter by darkening that down. So it's the same thing that we've talked about before. So I do want to thank everybody for your support for things like this, because this sort of mad science does not happen otherwise. That there is no way I would be fooling around with true metallic metals with oils if it was not for all of this. And I hope the color chart thing, I hope you didn't mind me spending a little extra time doing that, maybe less time just kind of refining things on him. We're going to be painting these guys. We're going to be painting a bunch of these guys. I don't think we're not going to be doing color charts anymore. So we did our one set of color charts here. Where's my Gamblin Silver? And that was, again, that was thinned down, and it really did behave just like the Mig Ammo oil brusher stuff. So again, what we're going to do is we're going to try and translate this now to everybody else. We may not quite have the wet blending, because remember, this is it's gonna take days to do this, right? So we're gonna learn and see how fast this stuff can dry. We're gonna see how do we can we still effectively work with this when we can't necessarily wet blend all the time. We're gonna find that out for sure, just like all the other series with the oils, because again, they take a little time to film and edit and render and do all those other things. So thanks again, everybody, and I will see you on episode 3.